So grateful Shonda Rhimes is here, and let me also say how thankful I am that so many of our wonderful elected officials are here today and fighting these battles every single day to protect our fundamental freedoms. Put your hands together for Senator Sharif Street, Senator Amanda Capoletti, Senator Maria Collette, Representative Greg Scott, Representative Mary Jo Daley, and of course, Congresswoman Madeleine Dean. Now, it is good to be in the House of Labor, and I spent a lot of years here at 1776. This is one of these union halls that helped me get my start. And so let me just take a point of personal privilege and say to the wonderful women and men of UFCW and all these wonderful people here, many of you from Montgomery County, I imagine, right? Philadelphia, it's cool. Nothing against Philly. We're all Eagles fans. It's okay. I just want to take a point of personal privilege and say it is the honor of my lifetime to serve as your governor. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve all of you. Thank you. Now, I know you know this. Every day when I go to work for you, I'm focused on three simple letters, GSD. You know, get shit done. That's right. And it's that attitude that's led us to investing more resources in public education than at any time in our Commonwealth's history. It's allowed us to invest in safer communities and pass the most sweeping criminal justice reforms ever in Pennsylvania. And by the way, I see the chairman of our Legislative Black Caucus here. I'm sorry I didn't get you before, Napoleon Nelson. You had a big hand in getting that done. It's why we've been able to come together and make sure we invest in our small businesses, invest in our seniors and our families by cutting taxes 4 times for Pennsylvanians to put more money back in their pockets while making smart investments that are going to help us move forward. We are focused on putting points on the board every day, getting stuff done. And you know who else is focused on getting stuff done for people? Kamala Harris is focused on getting stuff done. Now, I've known Kamala Harris for 20 years. We were brought together in a program actually through the Aspen Institute. She was a brand new prosecutor out in San Francisco. I was a brand new state representative like Napoleon and some of the others here in Montgomery County. We were both trying to figure out our way in public service, and we were brought together, and I've gotten to know her over the years. Let me tell you something. She is tough as nails. She is battle tested. She is ready to go. She has always stood up and fought for who? For the people. Every single chance she's had throughout her career, she's been focused on that one client, the good people of California, the good people of this nation, and I know she has the best interests of the good people of Pennsylvania at heart. I can tell you we've had many conversations about the direction she wants to lead this nation. And I couldn't be more confident, more excited to be standing with her and alongside her in this campaign for the presidency. Now listen, you could not have a clearer contrast in this race between her and the other guy. And we know what the other guy's all about because he had the keys to the White House before. And we're not going back, folks. We are not going back. I want you to think about this. There's a clear contrast on every issue. Let's take the economy for a moment. I know folks have been talking about that quite a bit. On the economy, Kamala Harris wants to cut taxes for small business. She wants to invest in our infrastructure. She wants to invest in our energy economy. She wants to lift all people up, especially folks who have been left behind. She's focused on all of us. Donald Trump is focused on himself and cutting taxes for the folks at the highest end of the income earning. No offense to them, but they've had a lot of breaks. We need to make sure everybody else gets a shot in this nation. Kamala Harris understands that. The economy is an area of clear contrast. Here's another area where we got a clear contrast. The I word, integrity. Kamala Harris has always been someone who's led with integrity. She is a good, decent, honorable public servant. I mean, the other guy, he's got 34 felony convictions. He's a guy who routinely has put his own self-interest above our interest. So whether on the economy or on the issue of integrity, we've got a clear contrast in this race. Let me tell you another area where we've got a clear contrast. The fundamental issue of freedom in our nation. I want you to examine the record here. When Donald Trump was in charge before, we lost freedom in this nation. I want you to think about that. Our daughter, Sophia, she's 22 years old. And every one of you out here were born with more rights than you have today under Donald Trump. That's opposite of the kind of progress we have made in our nation's history, where we've gotten more free, where we've accumulated more rights. Under Donald Trump, we have lost more rights. Kamala Harris has been fighting to expand our freedoms and our rights throughout her entire career. You could not have a clearer contrast. Whether on the issue of voting rights, Donald Trump literally sued us 43 times back in 2020 to make it harder for people to vote. Let's be honest, they're not trying to make it harder for people who look like me to vote. And then he made it harder for our votes to count in Pennsylvania. Y'all remember, he sued us 43 times. He went 0-43. I went 43-0 as your Attorney General. And we had a free and fair, safe and secure election. Now, in addition to that, he tried to stop the peaceful transfer of power. Take a look at Kamala Harris. She's always stood up to try and expand voting rights, working with giants like Congressman Lewis to make sure that that could become our law in this country. We still got work to do there. On voting rights, on that fundamental freedom, you couldn't have a clearer contrast. And of course, you couldn't have a clearer contrast when it comes to reproductive freedom in this nation. Something Donald Trump ripped away from us. And this isn't just about something that happened in the past, that has had a significant impact on us here in Pennsylvania. You might be scratching your head and saying, wait a minute, Gov, you're there, you're going to make sure that women's rights are protected, reproductive freedom is protected, and that is true, but we've still seen the impact here in our Commonwealth. You go out to the western side of our state, where Shonda's going to be tomorrow. We have seen an 800% increase in the number of women who are trying to access reproductive health care in our 2 reproductive health care centers in Pittsburgh. You know why? Because they're coming from West Virginia, where women no longer have rights, no longer have freedoms, because Donald Trump ripped them away. We have seen the effects there. But listen, this isn't just something that happened in the past. This is very much at risk going forward. Let me explain. And this is another area where we have a clear contrast. Donald Trump and his sidekick, J.D. Vance, it's hard to say his name without laughing. I mean, what an absolute goofball, right? And here's the thing about this guy. By the way, this is why he's so bad at his job. Hear me on this. This is a serious point. He's not being honest with himself, so he can't be honest with the American people. That's why he's making up bull every day, attacking our communities, trying to put certain people down because he's not comfortable with himself, so he tries to bully others. But remember, the reason why J.D. Vance and Donald Trump have hooked up and they're a common purpose in this is because they want to continue to take away our freedoms. And make no mistake, when the Senate and the House send them a bill to ban abortion nationwide, Donald Trump's going to sign it and J.D. Vance is going to be clapping like a seal behind him when he signs it. We don't want that in this nation. We don't. The good news is we got a way to stop that. And her name is Kamala Harris. Because she's made it clear that what the Supreme Court decided in Dobbs should only be temporary, because we need to codify Roe in this nation, and Kamala Harris is going to get that done for us. You could not have a clearer contrast in this race. And at the end of the day, the issue of our fundamental freedoms, the issue of a woman's right to choose or just simply access a full range of healthcare options. The truth is, all of that in this election comes down to you. Kamala Harris's name may be on the ballot, but it's your rights and your freedoms that are on the line. And this is a moment where you need to rise up and do your part. And your part is not just about voting for Kamala. I know we're all going to do that. Your part is over these next 39 days doing the hard work necessary to protect our fundamental freedoms, including our reproductive freedoms. And hear me on this, doing the hard work necessary to honor the work of those who came before us and those who came before them and our ancestors' ancestors did to secure the rights and freedoms we have today. Now, we have a unique responsibility. And listen, no offense to those from outside of Pennsylvania, Shonda, but we got a unique understanding because we are Pennsylvanians as to that relationship we have with freedom and progress. Let me explain. 248 years ago, just down the road in Philadelphia, at Independence Hall, we had declared our independence from a king. And by the way, we're not going back to a king in this nation. But we had declared our independence from a king and then gathered together in order to sign a document known as our Constitution that would set our nation on a path of self-determination. Now I recognize there's a whole lot of people in this room who weren't represented in that room, who didn't have a vote, who weren't even seen as human beings in the eyes of this new nation. But what we learned from those founders was that we were going to become more just as a society because we, the people, had the power to do this work. And indeed, in every chapter of our American story, we have grown more just. We have grown more free. We have grown more inclusive over time. Why do I share this story with you about signing our Constitution right here in Pennsylvania 248 years ago? Because I want to tell you the story of what happened to one of my predecessors as governor, Ben Franklin. Sounds kind of weird to know that Ben Franklin was your predecessor. But I want to tell you a story about Ben Franklin after he signed the Constitution. He signed the Constitution, Shonda, and then he walked out onto the cobblestone streets of Philadelphia. And he was met by a woman from Philly. This woman looked Franklin in the eye after just signing the Constitution and said, "Mr. Franklin, what do we have? A monarchy or a republic?" Franklin looked her in the eye and said, "We have a republic if you can keep it." If you can keep it. Those 5 words, I think it's 5, if you can keep it. Those 5 words have actually been our call as a nation over the last 2.5 centuries. You see, the reason I'm telling you this is because we have had to do this work over 2.5 centuries. We have had to grow more just and more free and more tolerant. And folks, we know how to do this. Because at the end of the day, even though Franklin signed the document, and nowadays folks like me or Sharif or Mary Jo, we've got the titles. The truth is, if you look through our American story, it hasn't been people with titles next to their name who have made us more just and more free. It's been ordinary Americans rising up, demanding more, seeking justice, and helping us move forward in every chapter of our American story. Right now, you have the power to finish this chapter in our American story. And let's be honest, because of Donald Trump, we haven't just been making forward progress in this latest chapter of our American story. We got knocked back a little bit, especially when it comes to our freedoms and reproductive rights. But, ladies and gentlemen, this chapter isn't over yet. You have not just the vote, but you've got the pen to be able to write this next chapter. You get to decide if we are going to end this chapter with fewer rights than my daughter was born with, or with more rights and more freedom. And I know we are the party of freedom, and Kamala Harris is the person to lead us forward, and you are the people to do this work. So are you ready to do this work? Are you ready to fight for our freedoms? And are you ready to be able to look at the 47th president in the eye and say, hello, Madam President, I'm ready to get to work for this nation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so am I. Let's get to work. Let's get it done. Thank you.